that internal conflict is what I feel like makes Bruce such an interesting character. And by the end of it, he has to make his own decisions and he has to make his own choices. And I think that's what creates so much chaos in the show is the way he goes about making those choices.
How are you today?
Fantastic.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful.
How are you doing yourself?
I'm doing great. I just binged The Brother's Son yesterday
Oh
and,
my God.
obsessed. I loved it. Bruce is such a sweetheart. Um,
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the audition process was like for you, but how did you react when you found out that you got the part and Michelle Yeoh is your mom?
I found out when I was at Disneyland. I was in line
Oh,
for a ride. So I was in line for Splash Mountain. So I was already at the happiest place on earth. And yeah, it just made my day even happier. It was even better. It was probably one of the best days of my life, I think, when I
mhm.
found out, because this is like something that I had been trying to work towards like my whole life, and this is a dream come true. So it was really special to get that call. But I will say they played a prank on me. And
What
apparently
did
they
they
did
do?
this. Apparently they did this to Justin as well, who plays my brother.
Mhm.
Um, but they called me and they're like, Sam, we just want to thank your time and thank you for coming in. And we thought about it a lot and we had to make some tough decisions. It was just like really soaking in the moment. And I'm just like, okay, just tell me I didn't get it. Like, all right, you could just thank me for my work. I'll go back to auditioning again. And then they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We really liked what you did, but after thinking about it a lot, and there's a lot of decision makers
Oh
here.
my God.
We want to offer you the part. It's like, why did you tell it to me like this?
Wow.
And Kevin's response, who's the executive producer and director, is like, it's more fun that way. So that
Yeah.
was, yeah, they really got me there.
That's awesome. Now, I have to actually say that when I saw that Kevin was part of it, assume that's Kevin Tencheron. I was so excited because I love his work on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I thought this was like, all that action was in there, but we get the comedy. And you are really bringing the comedy home for the most part.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
Yeah.
I love the element of being an improv kid for Bruce. As a theater kid myself, it's really fun to see that side of him. How much improv experience do you have? And what was it like tapping into that part of him?
It's really interesting that you asked that because I, at the time, didn't have as much improv experience, but I was making like comedy videos online. And I made a lot of them at the time, like all throughout the pandemic. I was filming these comedy sketches where a lot of times I would be improvising. And so I think a lot of those skills sort of translated during the audition process, but also it was just like very easy for me to be comfortable making comedic choices and bold choices during that process. And also when I was filming the show, I actually took Groundlings classes in preparation for the show for Bruce,
Yeah.
who is a Groundlings actor. Um, so it was a lot of fun to really explore that in depth. And there's a lot of nuance to actually all of the acting schools, all of the improv schools. When it comes to UCB or
Mm.
Groundlings, they have different styles, and so it was really interesting to kind of balance all of that. But I really liked it, and I think yes, anding is a huge part of the show, a part of Bruce's character. But I also think it's a great way to tackle life, to live life. It makes life so much more exciting, and I think that's why Bruce does so well throughout The Brother's Son. He just yes ands everything, no matter how crazy it is.
I love that interpretation of it. Also, Bruce and his mother's relationship is so fascinating, a very different kind of mother son dynamic than we might be used to seeing, and certainly than his brother is used to seeing. Can you talk about building that relationship with Michelle on set, and then, just how Bruce feels being so separate from everyone else in his family?
Well, I mean, it's so easy because it's Michelle Yeoh. So I just felt like it came really naturally. And who she is as a person actually is very inviting. She has a very inviting aura, a very maternal aura, not just to me, but to anybody on set. She really treated everybody like they were her own kids. And that was really special for me to witness, but also get to experience as an actor. But it is interesting because I have a lot in common with Bruce,
Mhm.
including that the fact that I was also raised by a single mom who took care of me and, raised me alone. And so I think even that first day on set when I was with Michelle, like I just kind of pictured my own mom, and I think it was very easy. It was very, very easy to really, get comfortable and build that dynamic. It came very naturally, luckily.
On the other hand, he barely knows his father and brother, but how much do you think that he questioned the state of affairs, like the status quo, before his brutal introduction to the Jade Dragons in this show?
That's a good question. And I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. I definitely know as an actor, I had questions about what I was thinking about it. And that's actually what's so cool about working with Byron and working with Brad is that when I have questions like these, they're really good at encouraging and figuring out answers for me. And, I think there was even one line that made it into the show about Michelle talking about how he thinks that his father is a gambler. And that was actually, a conversation that I had with Byron to talk about what did I think of my dad, of my brother. And so I think he is kind of clueless in that sense, but also, Michelle's character, Eileen, is such a master, puppeteer. And so she's really good at selling anything she says. So I think she did a great job of fooling me into never really questioning these things.
Obviously, when Charles and Bruce meet again, it's like they're practically strangers. But you and Justin have a really nice chemistry that builds over the course of the season that feeds into what the show is giving us. Can you talk about bouncing off each other on set?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, Justin Chien is phenomenal. He has so much more to offer as a person than what we see as Charles. And something that I found really fascinating, even before we had started working with each other, when we just got to hang out and meet for the first time, was that he grew up in a family with brothers and I grew up in a family with a sister. So we both had siblings. And so there is this playful element of this kind of sibling rivalry that you kind of feel in the show. There's like undertones of it. And I think that both comes very naturally to us because I feel like we both experience what it's like to have siblings. And so it was very easy to bounce off of him. And he's a phenomenal actor and an even better person. He's so giving, so encouraging, and something that he doesn't get enough credit for because we know him as the badass Charles' son that, brutally murders multiple people. But what's great about him as a person, he's actually very funny and he has great comedic chops, in my opinion. He's a very fun person to be around and does great impressions and is always making everybody laugh. So he's really fun and a really great person to work with.
Speaking of, Charles' son being the badass murder machine, Bruce is more of a lover than a fighter, probably, but he is present for countless fight scenes by the end of the season. What's it like to kind of be on the fringes of those moments? And did you learn any martial arts or any, stunt choreography through osmosis?
Through osmosis, yes. But it's so funny because I feel like everybody in the show is so badass, right? They're doing all kinds of martial arts. And I remembered like talking to the stunt coordinators who are wonderful. They're really awesome. The people over at 8711, I believe. They did, some of the people worked on John Wick and a Day Shift, a bunch of other great action pieces. But I was like so excited to jump in. I'm like such big fans of the work. And I'm like, cool, okay, cool. Like, how do I get started? I want to get involved. And they're like, no. You should stay over there because the less you know, the better it plays. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So they were really encouraging for me, even though they asked me, if I had martial arts experience, if I, had these experiences, which I do. I have some, I've taken like martial arts classes in the past and definitely have dabbled in that. They were really encouraging of me to actually stay away from it because I felt like it built a lot of contrast to Bruce and what he represents and getting tossed into this cool, kung fu martial arts world. And so, I was kind of stayed away from that, but it helped. I'm glad they were very open to me doing my own stunts. And I think it helped that I did come from an athletic background where they were very encouraging of me to go ahead and do my own stunt sequences, even though they weren't necessarily fight. More like running away.
Running away, takes stamina, agility. You gotta build up your strength for that too.
Good point.
I love what you said before about Bruce being a yes and person, but that can be difficult when both his mother and brother want him to say yes and to very different things. Can you talk about that dynamic of being pulled in different directions, neither of which is necessarily what he wants to do?
Yeah, Bruce is struggling between those choices a lot. And I think this is what's great about the show is the theme of making your own choices, right? The power of your own choices. And there was a lot for me to actually draw from my own personal experience, because my own mom actually didn't, it's not surprising, but she really didn't want me to pursue acting and the arts, because there was really no, at the time when I really wanted to get involved, which is like about 10 years ago, there was really not a flourishing industry that I think we see now, especially when it comes to like diversity and stuff on screen. So my mom was very discouraging of me, because here's the thing about Asian moms is that they just want the best for you, but they're going to be very passionate about how they want the best from you. And sometimes it can be very overwhelming. And I think Bruce has a sense of that, but also Bruce trusts his mom. So that internal conflict is what I feel like makes Bruce such an interesting character. And by the end of it, he has to make his own decisions and he has to make his own choices. And I think that's what creates so much chaos in the show, is the way he goes about making those choices. But yeah, I guess that's what's so fun about the character of Bruce, is that he doesn't necessarily do the right thing or the wrong thing. And this show does a great job of portraying what is right or wrong. The lines are blurred. It's not black and white. It's a whole gray world that they live in. So it's really fun to just explore the nuances of that.
Brad Falchuk is a monster creator, like, Glee, American Horror Story, even 911.
Legend.
Crazy. So what was it like, or what do you think was the most important takeaway that you had from being under his and Byron Wu's tutelage?
I'll tell you a story. The first time that, well, I met Brad and Byron in the audition process, but the first time, this was after that I had booked, that I'd been offered Bruce to play Bruce's son. I had a meeting with Brad and Byron, and Brad just said one thing. He was like, listen, we just need two things from you, okay? As an actor, we just need two things. If you do these two things, you're fine. That's your job. You're done. You don't have to do anything else. It's be on time and know your lines.
Oh.
And that's it. And I was like, wow, I've never really thought about it like that. Like, I guess there's so much more that I was thinking about, but it's like, hey, you know what? I get what you're saying, because it's like, I feel like we're all here for a reason. There's been a very elaborate selective process for how they want to go about choosing the characters. And we've gotten to a point where I think as long as I show up on time and know my lines, we're going to have something. So, so I think it was very relieving in that way. And I think that was also very humorous to hear in that perspective. But, on top of that, like, all jokes aside, he is a very collaborative person. And I think the faith and the flexibility for me to be my own person and be my own artist and make my own choices was very freeing. And I think all you can ask for as an actor, that's all you can hope for, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they made that process very, very fun for me in that sense. And it felt very collaborative. And I felt like I was really able to contribute to this in a very personal, creative way of being able to bring my own flair into this character and to the show.
Without spoiling, I will say that season 1 leaves me being like, well, season 2 can come now. So we can do more of this. What aspects of the family, Bruce, or just the world in general would you like to explore if we get to come back around?
There's a lot of ways I could answer that question. But I think the plot is going to thicken for everybody. And I feel like we got a chance to, kind of see Big Son and what Big Son is up to. But I feel like now we get to really see what the Jade Dragons is like and dive into that. And I would love to see more elements of where Bruce can go too, because we get a taste of what he's like when he gets the confidence to make bold choices. But what if he gets, pushed into a corner? What if we get to explore him going down a darker path? Think about that. I think he has a real potential to have his own sort of Breaking Bad moment. So,
Ooh,
which
fascinating.
would be interesting because he's so sweet. Like you see,
Yeah.
like season one, episode one, Bruce. He's such a sweet, adorable, cute kid, right?
Mhm.
So, what happens though if he's really in the thick of it?
That could be interesting indeed.
Yeah.
And then finally, now you've gotten a little taste of action, a little taste of comedy with this, like, first really big TV role. What would you like to step into next? Are there any genres you want to tackle?
First of all, I think being a part of the Brother's Son has been a dream come true because this checked off every single box I could have asked for as an actor. Like I tell my friends this, if I retire from acting tomorrow, like I never book a single role, I will be fully happy and content because I feel like this project has done it all. It's so genre bending, There's so many different elements, and so I I feel so blessed to have been able to be a part of this process. I feel like I've experienced everything an actor could ever possibly have wanted to experience. Um, but with that aside, though, I do think that me as a person, I consider myself like hopeless romantic. I think like romance and love is a very big part of my life. I'm on a quest to find the love of my life.
Oh,
And so I would love to explore more in that department. I think doing a rom-com would be really awesome. I feel like I have a lot to give. One of my favorite films of the year was Past Lives,
oh my
A24,
God.
Celine
So
Song. Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yes.
So good.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think doing something in that genre would be a real treat.
That's awesome. I am a big rom com enthusiast, so I support you and I look forward to seeing you in the next rom com.